I wish somebody had made this video when I first started. It was pretty evident for me that your website is like a business card for your customers, for people in general. So it can create a unique expression of your business. That's why it's crucial to create an outstanding, beautiful, and easy to follow website. But seems like nobody could explain clearly what a website means, what are HTML and CSS codes, how to use these codes, what should particularly be on your website, and how to organize this data. Today in this video, I'm going to cover these topics and it will give you the main basic information of how to create an outstanding and beautiful website when you are a total zero, as I was at the beginning. Hello everybody, my name is Sofia and welcome to my channel. Let me explain why you cannot build your website like a PowerPoint presentation. The main difference between these two is that a website should be flexible due to different screen sizes and also interactive with visitors. So they should be able to interact with your images, links, click on them, zoom in and out pictures. A website is not a PDF file. It contains text, links, and pictures, but it's a code that explains your browser and computer how to organize all these elements on your particular screen. This code describes everything, every single feature of every single element that you have on your website. For example, color, text, font size, font style, paddings, margins, and so on. There are two types of these codes, HTML and CSS codes. I will start with the first one. HTML code describes the location of an element. It looks like a burger and it's responsible for describing the place where this element is located. CSS code is more specific. It's related to appearance, how this element looks like. If we're talking about text, for example, HTML code says where this text is located, and CSS shows the features that this text has. The main point of a technically well-done website is to make it responsive for all types of screens, especially for mobile phones, because people currently use their mobile phones to surf the internet. And so take into account that most of your visitors will also look at your website through their small screens. So it's important to pay attention to mobile phones and small devices. The second point is to make your website load fast. It's more about the size of your pictures. To reduce the size of files, people currently use WebP type that is a lot smaller than PDF or JPEG files. Before publishing your website, make sure that you have already reduced the sizes of your files, especially pictures, as much as possible. Probably the main question is, should I learn coding? I personally, at the start, had no idea about CSS, HTML codes. I had no idea how to code websites. The good news is that currently it's possible to build a website without knowing coding at all. And there are some free apps that provide this service, so you can use them for your good. But still, I would say that without knowing basic knowledge related to coding, you are pretty limited, because these apps, they usually have ready-to-use templates, elements that you cannot really change without writing codes. But it's probably not that necessary at the very beginning. But I would definitely recommend you to learn coding for your future, and this effort will not be in vain, I can guarantee that. I personally use a Bootstrap Studio app that also has these ready-to-use templates, but I wanted to make them look unique. I thought that coding would be beneficial for me, but at the very beginning, as I mentioned, it's not that necessary. You can still create an outstanding and good looking website without knowing coding at all. The next question is, what should you include on your website? The first thing that you need to understand is that your website is all about your customers. You should look at your projects from your customer's perspective. What kind of information they would like to see on your website? What are they looking for? Why would they visit your website? To better understand what kind of questions you have to ask yourself, you need to define your customer. I can give you some ideas for that task. Usually, people define their customers by a couple of segments. For example, the basic ones are age, location, hobbies, maybe work, interests, pain points, willingness. These things will help you in defining who is your potential client and what are they looking for. So your website is made for them. They have to understand what kind of values you have, what kind of problem you solve for them. Why do you do that actually? If your business is about self-brand, you can tell people your story. How did you come up with this idea? What kind of life situation you have? What was the starting point? I would highly recommend you to use stories because people love them. We associate ourselves with stories, and it will definitely shorten the gap between you and your customer and also build trust. The second thing that you should think about is your brand. Make sure that elements that you use on your website, you also use in your other aspects, like products, posts, content. It doesn't mean that your brand is boring. It means that it has the same specific features, and for people it's a lot easier to remember you, to remember your brand. If you look at some big companies that are pretty successful in branding, you will notice that they have the same color palette, they have the same slogan, or maybe text, maybe fonts. For example, Apple fonts that are popular nowadays. People use these fonts. It's not about making your business look boring, it's about making it memorable. It's another thing. Make sure that you have a specific information on your website, like contact forms, maybe some instructions related to your product. You can also mention that your copyrights are reserved and nobody can use your intellectual property, which means everything what you have on your website belongs to you. I know that probably thinking of all these factors and stuff may be overwhelming, but I want to recommend you one method that helped me a lot in this task. I used a mind map. It's not really a big deal. You just let your thoughts flow on the piece of paper. Whatever comes up in your mind, just write it down. And sometimes the coolest and biggest ideas are born from the silliest ones. You can never know where it leads you to, but make sure that nobody sees this paper. This method helped me visualize my brand and my site as whole, because I had a lot of ideas in my mind and now I had all of them gathered on just one page. It was extremely helpful and I would recommend you to do so as well. I just found my mind map. It looks like that and it's not really a big task. It took me around 30 minutes to complete. It shouldn't be like a final version of your website or of your brand. It's just like a draft of all of your ideas that you have in your mind. For example, I included there some ideas related to how many pages my website will have or what kind of colors I would like to use as my main ones. So it was pretty helpful and yeah, it's not a big task at all. And last but not least, let's talk about designing. I want to tell you that there are no rules about designing, how to make a beautiful design. We can do whatever we want to, but there are still some principles, technical ones, that will improve your design. The first thing about designing is make sure that you do not use more than 3 fonts in your project. This idea is entirely related to our brain, how it works. For people, it's hard to remember more than 3 fonts, especially it makes harder to perceive the information, which is not your goal because you want people to stay on your website as long as possible. So keep it simple but meaningful. There are also 2 types of font styles, serif and sans fonts. I would recommend you to use sans fonts for main text because they are a lot easier to read. It's not difficult for our eyes to perceive the information. Serif fonts, they are also very beautiful and you can use them for some details, maybe headings, as I do. Pick up fonts that will align with your brand, and you can also use some free ones from Google Fonts. They have an amazing library, so feel free to check them out. Talking about colors, it's exactly the same thing. Keep it simple but meaningful. Do not use more than 4 main colors for your brand. You can also look at some big companies, at their brand, how they create value. Some companies, they may use even just one color, and you probably will remember them the best. Here applies the rule, the easier the better. And I also feel this need to mention this point. Do not use AI generated text and images and also other people's pictures. It's not a good thing to do. It also has a bad impact on your brand. You want to be authentic, and you will probably have to write it all by yourself. The ideal situation is when you can take photos by yourself, but if you do not have this opportunity yet, you can still use our photographer's photo that have already provided the permission for using their intellectual property. And there is also a good platform called Pixabay where people upload their original photos and you can use them for free. It's also a good source to check out. This video was about how to create your successful very first website, and I hope that these points will be helpful for you. So feel free to tell about your experience in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.